So in 2016, the summer following my freshman year, I was involved in a moped accident. I was at Martha's Vineyard and I was riding a moped and I saw a dump truck coming in the opposite direction as me and I veered left and I sideswiped it and my leg was severed on the scene and I was completely conscious. And one of the biggest things I did think about, and the only thing that I was worried about at the time, was that I was never going to be able to walk again, let alone run or play sports. And so I really did think that my life was over. And that's just everything that was like coming at me. And I was just thinking, and then waking up the next day in the hospital and having the support that I did from the university, my coaches, my teammates, my friends, my family, that really like got me to the level that I wasn't going to accept this and I wasn't going to accept that this was going to be it for me. And I also had a lot of the Boston Marathon survivors reaching out to me, just kind of sharing their stories and everything that they've gone through. And hearing that, I really couldn't sit there and feel sorry for myself. And that's when I kind of vowed to myself that I really didn't want to let this accident define the person I wanted to become or the athlete or define the rest of my life. And I was able to work my way back, playing Division I lacrosse. It took me about a year and a half. So I returned my junior season, and then I went on to play my senior season. It was like my accident never even happened, and the only reason why that was even possible was because of the support that I received from my teammates and coaches and the people that took the time out of their days. I mean, my assistant coach was literally amazing, just forcing me to do workouts. And just getting me to where I needed to be, and having that tough love really did, and that kind of coach to yell at me and scream at me is something that I needed. I'm that type of person that needs to be yelled at and screamed at to do something, or I'm not going to do it, or at least I was before then. And so when I graduated, I really didn't want to hang up my athletic career just yet. And because in my eyes, I'd only been running for about 2 years, and I just thought I learned how to run again, and I really didn't want to hang it up. And so that's when I started learning about the Paralympics, and someone from the US Paralympic track and field team reached out to me asking if I've ever thought about pursuing the sport. And I had never done track and field in my life, but I thought this would be an amazing opportunity to represent my country, if I was going to be good enough. And so I just signed myself up for the first track meet. And I mean, getting to train alongside people with two legs for the 2 years prior to that track meet at lacrosse, and doing every single run test. I mean, if I came in last, I would have to do 10 burpees. And so that was really getting me ready for this moment. And in my first track meet ever, not only did I win, but I also beat the reigning national champion, and I hit the qualifying times to be a part of the US Paralympic national team. And I always credit that to my lacrosse teammates because I'm sprinting alongside them, trying to keep up with them. And that really did prepare me. And then I started training with a Paralympian in Boston, and she introduced me to our coach now. And I've just been kind of riding the wave and getting to where I need to be. And I mean, the goal was making it to Tokyo for 2020, but kind of having COVID happen and everything really was a blessing in disguise for me, just because I was so new to the sport, and having that whole extra year to train and get better and just to really get more conditioned and comfortable with being on the track and understanding what it's like being at a track meet, was crucial for me. And I'm running the best times I've ever ran in my life. And so it's crazy to think that something so awful, and tragic I've turned it into another positive. And I think it's just like always telling myself, like, things can happen in life and you just have to push through it, and you have to go through every single day and apply yourself 100%, because you never know what's going to happen. And you just, when the moment presents itself, to always be ready. So yeah, now I'm training for Tokyo 2020 21.
It's what I mean, 2 years is just so fast. Like, it's just crazy to me to think like how much things can change. And for you, it's incredible to me that you've been able to accomplish so much. I did just want to ask a couple questions about after the accident happened. I mean, I know, of course, you're like, oh man, am I going to walk again? But did you ever like fear for your life? Was it ever to the point where you thought maybe, you know, it could have been that bad?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I was laying on the ground, and I knew exactly what happened to me. I mean, tons, it was on a main road, so I had tons of people coming up and like helping. The guy driving behind me actually took a shirt off to create a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. But I really never felt that I was gonna die. And I honestly think it's just because of, I mean, I really did have God looking out for me that day, because I had the man driving in the car, and then I also had there was a nurse jogging on the scene, like jogging near the scene, and so she came up and she was helping me, kind of getting me like situated before the EMT showed up. And then, so I mean, the biggest thing that I was thinking of, I mean, it really was lacrosse, and I just kept saying it out loud. I was like, I'm never gonna play lacrosse again. I'm And then I literally remember seeing someone like carrying my leg around in a towel. Like it was, everything was just hitting me, but it never came to me that I thought that my life was going to end. And I mean, the EMTs were amazing, and they took me to Martha's Vineyard Hospital, and there's when they told me that I was stable, but I was going to have to be med flighted over to BMC. And so kind of hearing that, that's definitely, I mean, I mean, that's when I realized that, okay, this is going to be my new life. Like I'm going to be an amputee, because I knew that they probably weren't going to be able to reattach it, because I was asking the question 100 times in the ambulance and they just weren't answering me. So I knew it was going to be a possibility. And so luckily that was the only thing wrong with me too. I didn't have a scratch on my body
Oh,
other than
wow.
that. So that was another thing. And it was crazy, but I never feared for my life. I was thinking about all the wrong things in that moment, just kind of being myself, just thinking I'm never going to be able to play sports again. But yeah.
And the reason why I ask that, I know it's kind of a morbid question, but it just sort of, in my mind, it really sets the stage for that. Literally, could have been in some regards is the worst thing that could happen, like the lowest moment you could have. But it sets the stage for this incredible perseverance, and that's basically the tone of your entire story. So once you realize what's going to happen, you're going to Boston, you're going to be med flighted. I mean, you've mentioned this incredible support team, but doesn't mean that you still don't have bad days. So when you think about just that 18-month journey of getting back onto the lacrosse field, I mean, how bad were your worst days mentally? I just mean dealing with just what those lows really were, and how did you push through time and time again?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I think the biggest thing for me was keeping myself busy, keeping my mind occupied, not laying in bed, just feeling sorry for myself, always staying busy. And I mean, the time that I got out of the hospital is the time that everyone was returning back to campus and returning to practice. So I didn't even have a walking prosthetic yet. And I was driving myself back and forth from New Hampshire to UMass every single day to be at practice. And I think that definitely it was good for me. It was good therapy for me, just because it kept my mind busy. But obviously sitting there on the sidelines, watching everyone else practice, that was definitely tough for me, just because I didn't know if I would ever be able to play again. And at that moment, I was probably thinking that it was probably never going to happen. And I would say like the toughest parts, and I would say the only person that I ever showed emotion to about it was my mom.